Kyron Horman was born on September 9, 2002, and from the beginning, he was described as a bright, curious, and affectionate child. He was instantly recognizable by his oversized t-shirts, metal-framed glasses, wide smile, and the goofy front teeth that became a hallmark of his appearance. To those who knew him, Kyron's look was inseparable from his joyful personality, a combination of innocence and enthusiasm that seemed to light up every room. His daily life reflected both his playful side and his love for learning. Kyron was fascinated by aquariums, where he could spend hours staring at fish with childlike wonder. Trips to the zoo and long walks through forests became favorite pastimes, matched by his enjoyment of days at the beach and family vacations to Disneyland. His energy was balanced by a sharp mind, as shown by his advanced math placement at Skyline Elementary. He was also learning sign language, revealing both an eagerness to communicate and a determination to expand his skills beyond what was required in school. Family and community were central to his life. His parents and extended relatives described him as loving and deeply attached, a boy who thrived on encouragement and connection. Teachers noted his engagement in class and his readiness to share knowledge with others. Though young, he carried a sense of belonging to a supportive environment where his interests were nurtured and his curiosity was celebrated. Kyron's world was defined by exploration, learning, and laughter. The snapshot of his life shows a child whose days were filled with schoolwork, family outings, and the steady presence of a community that cherished him. Understanding this background is essential to grasping the magnitude of his disappearance and the void it created. On the morning of June 4, 2010, Kyron Horman woke with anticipation. He had been preparing a science project on red tree frogs, and that day, Skyline Elementary hosted its science fair. His stepmother, Terri Horman, drove him to school in his father Kane's truck, arriving at approximately 8 a.m. Witnesses later recalled Kyron's excitement as he carried his display, eager to show his work. At 8:15 a.m., the school's PTA president, Gina Zimmerman, saw Terri and Kyron standing together near his exhibit. This interaction provided one of the key confirmations of Kyron's presence inside the school. Soon after, Terri stated that she walked with Kyron through the hallways before stopping near his classroom. At 8:45 a.m., she was last seen observing him as he walked in the direction of his homeroom. This moment marked the final verified sighting of Kyron, with Terri present. Roughly 15 minutes later, around 9:00 a.m., another student reportedly saw Kyron near the school's south entrance. This sighting would later become the last known time anyone recalled seeing him alive. Despite the science fair continuing through the morning, Kyron's teacher, Christina Porter, marked him absent when classes officially began at 10:00 a.m. His empty desk contrasted sharply with the lively atmosphere of the event. While Kyron's whereabouts became uncertain, Terri's movements were later tracked through statements and records. After leaving the school grounds, she drove to several grocery stores, reportedly running errands. She also drove her daughter around, later explaining it was due to an ear infection. At 11:39 a.m., gym records confirmed her presence for a workout session. Then, at 1:21 p.m., Terri posted a photo of Kyron, standing proudly beside his science project on her Facebook page, reinforcing the impression that the day had been ordinary. This timeline, stretching from the early morning arrival to the early afternoon social media post, would soon prove critical. It established the final confirmed moments of Kyron's presence at Skyline Elementary and outlined the activities of his stepmother during the hours that followed. By the time Kyron was officially reported missing, the window of uncertainty had already grown wide, leaving investigators with a puzzling and urgent case to unravel. At 3:30 p.m. on June 4, 2010, Terri and Kyron Horman stood waiting at the bus stop for Kyron. As the bus doors opened, their anticipation turned to confusion when they realized their son was not there. Speaking with the driver, they quickly learned Kyron had not been at school the entire day. Alarmed, they immediately contacted Skyline Elementary to confirm his absence. The school secretary, Susan Hill, made the critical call to 911, formally alerting authorities to the missing child. At approximately 4:15 p.m., just 45 minutes later, law enforcement officers arrived on scene. Their arrival marked the official beginning of the investigation, shifting the situation from parental concern to an urgent police matter. By 5:30 p.m., Portland Public Schools issued a mass text message to parents across the district. The message read, "Kyron Horman did not arrive at home." Today, this direct communication underscored the seriousness of the situation and signaled that the case was rapidly escalating beyond routine protocol. At 7:45 p.m., the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office formally contacted the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The decision demonstrated the recognition that Kyron's case required immediate federal support, adding specialized resources to the growing effort. By nightfall, search and rescue teams had assembled near the school grounds. Between 8:09 p.m. and 10:45 p.m., teams combed Skyline Elementary and the surrounding areas, including utility tunnels and passageways close to the building. Their search reflected the urgency of locating a child who had seemingly vanished without explanation during the school day. The community's concern was immediate, and law enforcement's mobilization was swift. Within hours, what began as confusion at a bus stop had become a coordinated, large-scale search involving multiple agencies, setting the stage for one of Oregon's most extensive missing child investigations. On June 5, 2010, one day after Kyron Horman's disappearance, the search effort widened dramatically. Local authorities were joined by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Oregon National Guard, adding significant manpower and specialized resources to the operation. Their arrival emphasized how quickly the case had escalated in scope. By June 6th, the FBI introduced a criminal profiler to assist investigators. This step reflected growing concern that Kyron's disappearance was not the result of a simple misunderstanding or accident. At this stage, the case was officially reclassified as an endangered child case, granting investigators broader jurisdiction and additional tools for pursuing leads. The search broadened geographically, extending beyond Skyline Elementary and its surrounding terrain. Authorities directed attention towards Sauvie Island, a large rural area northwest of Portland, known for its farmland, marshes, and forested zones. The island's varied landscape required ground teams, boats, and air surveillance, demonstrating the intensity and urgency of the mission. Throughout these days, law enforcement coordinated with hundreds of volunteers who joined the effort. Flyers bearing Kyron's smiling face appeared in neighborhoods, on shop windows, and across community boards. Billboards were erected to broadcast his disappearance more widely, ensuring that drivers, commuters, and visitors to Portland were reminded of the missing child. Rumors and reports also began to circulate. Community members occasionally believed they had spotted signs or clues connected to Kyron's disappearance. Each lead was carefully checked, but none provided the breakthrough investigators desperately needed. Despite the frustration, the community's willingness to remain vigilant reflected their determination to see Kyron brought home safely. By June 13th, after days of exhausting ground searches, coordinated sweeps, and expanding efforts, the tone of the investigation shifted. Multnomah County authorities formally reclassified the matter from a missing child report to a criminal investigation. This change reflected their growing belief that foul play had been involved. and that Kyron's disappearance required a more intensive criminal inquiry rather than search and rescue operations alone. The transition marked a turning point. What had begun as a frantic community-driven search now became an investigation dominated by law enforcement strategy, specialized units, and the pursuit of criminal leads. For families, neighbors, and volunteers, the change in classification was sobering, signaling that hope for a quick resolution was fading. Yet the shift also represented law enforcement's determination to pursue every possible avenue in uncovering the truth behind the disappearance of Kyron Horman. In the weeks following Kyron Horman's disappearance, the focus of the investigation began to expand inward, creating tension within the family. On June 18, Terri Horman underwent her second polygraph test, an event closely watched by investigators and the public alike. The continued testing reflected authorities' interest in clarifying her account of June 4 and the hours surrounding Kyron's last known movements. Between June 26 and July last, 2 emergency 911 calls were placed from the Horman residence. Though the details of the calls were not disclosed publicly, they highlighted rising stress within the household. The atmosphere had shifted from shared grief to growing suspicion, and those suspicions soon produced life-altering decisions. Kyron Horman, Kyron's father, chose to take his young daughter and leave the family home. Shortly after his departure, he filed for divorce from Terri and obtained a restraining order. The order barred Terri from contacting their daughter and from entering Skyline Elementary, a move underscoring how fractured the family had become. What began as a united front to bring Kyron home was unraveling under the weight of mounting pressures. In July, new revelations intensified scrutiny on Terri. A landscaper who had worked at the Horman residence came forward in an interview with the Oregonian, claiming that Terri had allegedly approached him with an attempt to solicit a murder-for-hire plot against Kyron. The explosive allegation, though not resulting in charges, further damaged public perception of Terri and added a darker layer to the ongoing investigation. Law enforcement also extended its attention to Terri's close associates. Investigators searched the home of her friend, Dee Speicher, who had been questioned regarding her whereabouts on the day of Kyron's disappearance. While Dee denied wrongdoing, her connection to Terri invited deeper examination of the people surrounding her. This period marked a profound turning point in the case. What had initially been an urgent community-wide search for a missing child was increasingly overshadowed by personal conflict, allegations, and investigative focus on Kyron's stepmother. The disappearance not only shattered the Horman family's stability, but also altered the trajectory of the investigation, drawing national attention to the fractures within the household and the growing suspicions aimed at Terri Horman. From August 2010 through 2016, the disappearance of Kyron Horman remained an open wound for his family and community, reflected both in court proceedings and in the continuing search. Witnesses testified during hearings, including staff from Skyline Elementary, who described the events of June 4, family members recounting their experiences, and even an anonymous witness from the gym who claimed to have seen Terri on the day Kyron vanished. These testimonies underscored how every detail was scrutinized for potential insight. Throughout these years, law enforcement and volunteers continued repeated searches. Many operations returned to areas that had already been combed, while others expanded to new ground, including remote locations across Multnomah and Washington counties. Despite immense resources, the searches brought no conclusive discoveries. The persistence of these efforts symbolized the community's unwillingness to let the case fade. Even as time passed without breakthroughs, alongside the physical searches, Legal disputes consumed the Horman family. Terri and Kaynie's divorce proceedings involved accusations and counterclaims, with custody arrangements for their daughter becoming central issues. Desiree Young, Kyron's biological mother, pursued her own legal actions, including civil claims against Terri, while Tony Young, Desiree's former husband, remained publicly engaged in advocating for answers. Allegations surrounding Terri's behavior and her role in Kyron's disappearance remained a constant undercurrent in these proceedings, though no charges were filed against her. As the years moved forward, the investigative focus began to shift. By 2013, authorities had scaled back large-scale search efforts, and the dedicated task force was eventually disbanded. With fewer active operations, investigators turned to re-examining individuals connected to the case, hoping that renewed interviews or emerging information might generate leads. The absence of definitive progress left the case in a difficult limbo. Neither solved nor forgotten, between 2010 and 2016, the narrative of Kyron's disappearance evolved into one of endurance. Families and volunteers demonstrated unwavering determination through repeated searches, while legal battles revealed the deep fractures left in the Horman household. For law enforcement, the task became one of balancing dwindling leads with the persistent responsibility to pursue justice for a missing child. The combination of courtroom struggles, unresolved allegations, and scaled-back investigations highlighted the painful reality. Despite years of effort, the truth about Kyron's disappearance remained beyond reach, prolonging the uncertainty for everyone involved. Kyron Horman's disappearance remains one of the most haunting unsolved cases in Oregon. It prompted the largest search in the state's history, mobilizing more than 1,300 volunteers alongside law enforcement agencies. Search teams combed forests, rivers, and rural areas, determined to find even the smallest clue. Yet, despite years of exhaustive work, no arrests have been made, and no one has been officially named as a suspect. By May 30th, 2019, nearly a decade after the boy vanished, authorities had narrowed active search zones to fewer than 100 acres. This significant reduction highlighted both the intensity of earlier efforts and the dwindling possibilities for new evidence. The narrowed focus did not mean closure. Instead, it underscored how elusive answers had become. Even after massive deployment of time, resources, and community support, for Kyron's family and the Portland community, the absence of resolution has been unbearable. On the 10th anniversary of his disappearance, in June 2020, family members and supporters gathered to honor his memory. A vigil was held, marked by prayers and remembrances, followed by a balloon release in his name. Events like these have become symbolic acts of hope, reflecting the determination to keep his story alive and to ensure he is never forgotten. Today, Kyron would be in his 20s, a milestone his family can only imagine. Despite the years that have passed, he remains missing. The $50,000 reward for credible information leading to answers about his case is still active. Authorities urge anyone with knowledge, no matter how minor it may seem, to contact the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. His case endures as a stark reminder of unanswered questions, a family's enduring grief, and a community's unyielding search for the truth.